Hi, I'm Alexa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a student at the University of Virginia.
Hi, my name is Rachel Maxwell. I use they, them pronouns, and I identify as a non-binary queer person, and I'm a student at UVA majoring in women, gender, and sexuality studies.
So I think I've always been the type of person that I've always felt like I never fit in. Um, and like no matter where I was, I just never felt like I was in the right spot, like I was in the right place. I just never felt like I was like finding my people. Um, and so then when I realized that I was queer, it was like, oh fuck.
So I think I really struggled to come into my queer identity in high school because I came from a really conservative area where queerness was just not really the norm. I was probably one of 3 or 4 out queer people in my high school, and I just tried to kind of fit in with the dominant sort of group by looking really feminine, not as I do now, so that my queerness would be more acceptable. So it wasn't until I came to college that I kind of started to present the way that I want to, and I identify as non-binary. That's not something that I associated with in high school because I think I was scared to embrace parts of my queerness that were more non-normative because there just aren't really people in my high school who look the way I do and present the way I do. I think that there are only a few instances where I've experienced queer utopia, and that's because kind of all the time I'm very aware of the way that my body looks because I experienced gender dysphoria as a non-binary person who is still marked as female or referred to as ma'am and stuff like that in many interactions. I don't really feel affirmed in my identity unless I'm around queer people who have an understanding of my identity. So working at a summer camp where almost the entire staff was queer was a time where I felt like it didn't matter so much what my body looked like because people knew my identity and knew not to mark me in a way that I didn't want them to. And around my queer friends at UVA, I sometimes feel really validated, but there are other times where I can't stop thinking about the way that I look and how my presentation doesn't always align with my identity. So it's definitely a struggle.
I don't think I've ever experienced queer utopia because I don't think anybody has ever really seen me as queer. And I don't think that I could experience that because I think it would take somebody seeing me as queer for them to treat me differently. I think it's that we're all different. There's not like just like a default queer person. There's not like a default way that we look or that we act. We're all just so different in our own right and manner, and I think that society or people in general can sometimes have an idea of what they think a queer person is or who they should be or how they act. And I think that it's often overlooked that we're all just so different, like we're human, and that we all have different hobbies or different likes or different interests, or that we prefer different sexes to different genders to different amounts, and that we're not just like a static person. We're not a static type of personality or just person in general.
I think that a lot of the time people think that it's a political statement to acknowledge people's queer identities and respect things like pronouns. I know for me, I've told people my pronouns and they've continued to not use them. And that just kind of feels like a blatant act of disrespect. And it's so easy to respect what people want to be called. And I think that that shouldn't just be something that queer people understand, but something that is just a basic form of human respect, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, or if you yourself are queer or if you're straight. It's just, I wish society was more in tune to the easy ways you can do to respect people.
I want to say yes. So I guess I'm going to say yes, but I don't know necessarily like when that time will be. I think it's going to be a long time in the future, and even then, I think the word fully, like fully accepted, I think that's kind of loaded, because I don't know if that's something that will ever happen. I would like to say majority accepted, but fully, I think that will be a long, like far time away from now. But I hope that maybe one day. I just don't know when that day will be.
So I think if queer people are going to be included in dominant society, we need a major restructuring of society. I don't think that including queer people in society that's based on patriarchal values, that is just embedded with heterosexism and all the things like that that make queer people feel invalidated. I don't want to be included in a society like that. I want to continue breaking down this society and building up a new place where queer people aren't put in boxes and diminished to little labels that only encapsulate a small part of who we are. So I think it's more about a complete restructuring than trying to include people in a dominant narrative. So